joined by our friend Ryan Girdusky, host of It's a Numbers Game on the Clay and Buck Podcast Network, and his Substack is the National Populist newsletter. Mr. Girdusky, great to have you back.
Thanks for having me.
Let's talk Wisconsin State Supreme Court. Tell us what's happening here. We know that there are some seats that would be in play if the Democrats win and can gerrymander because they have a majority on the court. How is it looking? How do you view this one?
So right now, so Wisconsin does not have registered political parties, right? Some states do, a lot of states do not. Wisconsin's one that does not. Wisconsin is one of the few states also that has same day voter registration. So you can show up with an address, say, I live here, I'm a Wisconsin resident, I would like to register to vote and vote. That is also allowed on the law in Wisconsin. As of right now in Wisconsin, there was 101,000 voters over the last 3 days. If you break down the municipalities that they come from, which is the only way we could really judge how they're possibly going to vote, it's overwhelmingly been Harris, people from districts that voted for Kamala Harris. Right now, if you broke down all the early voting, municipalities that voted for Kamala Harris have about a 6.4% advantage over Trump supporting municipalities. That's not a clean science. It doesn't mean exactly how it's going to turn out. There's no registered parties, as I said. But right now, it looks like the Democrats and the progressives have a slight advantage that Republicans and conservatives will have to make up on election day by a substantial margin. Now, Republicans do vote on election day, so that matters. But right now, it's about a 6.4% lean in Harris municipalities in the state.
Isn't it kind of funny, Ryan, that we're still told by some people, they'll say the judiciary is nonpartisan and judges just apply the law. But then when it comes to something like this, all of a sudden everyone is treating this like it is, it's just a Democrat versus a Republican with judicial robes on, right? Everyone knows that if you get a Democrat advantage on the state Supreme Court, you're going to have possibly 2 seats gerrymandered, right? So it just feels like the judges as a nonpartisan entity. And I know in some places it's more obvious than others and it depends on it. But I mean, this is like it's a political race.
Yeah, I mean, very much so. And that's why they spend millions upon millions of dollars. That's why the unions get involved. Wisconsin's a very heavy unionized state. They'll have interest in a lot of things that go on there. And that's why all these other groups, these PACs are getting involved in Wisconsin. It's very, very obvious. And they would all like the control of the House of Representatives in 2026. 2 extra seats would make it much, much easier if they broke up Madison and Milwaukee, giving Democrats a chance to really pick up seats. And I've heard so far that the western side of the state, the Republican western side of the state, very rural area, have had lower turnout so far. So that's an immensely important key factor is if the Trump coalition can come out. Remember, Wisconsin was Trump's tightest state in 2024, and I believe the tightest state also in 2016. So it's a toss-up state. It's a tough state. I know my PAC, the 1776 Project PAC, we've been investing in school board races there and spending money on school board races. And I know how difficult it is, especially with nonpartisan things. A lot of people don't know which party people lean on the ballot when there's nonpartisan. With this Supreme Court race, because there's so much money involved, it's likely that people do know. But in other races, people don't know.
Now, how are you feeling about the congressional race for the 6th district down here in Florida? We had Randy Fine on the last hour. He seems cautiously optimistic, but wants to make sure that the win is a big win.
Well, Randy Fine's running right now in a Trump plus 30 district. Former Congressman Mike Waltz won the seat by 33 points in the last election. Republicans have started building up a lead in the early vote, a substantial lead, about a 9-point lead is the last time I saw the numbers. That's substantial. And I don't think there's probably very little to no chance that the Democrat can win. And the Democrat, by the way, is somebody with a ton of baggage. So I'm surprised they even ran him. If they would have ran a probably better candidate, who knows if it could have been closer. But the seat's just so Republican that Randy Fine should be able to win. It may be a single digit or barely double digit win. It should be much, much larger. Randy Fine came out of the gate when he won his reelection, when he won the primary, rather, that he was going to start investigating members of the DeSantis administration, and he came out attacking DeSantis himself. He really kind of fumbled the ball going in and was a very easily disliked person by members of the Republican Party. But they put a lot of effort into rescuing his race now. It's such a Republican seat that he should be fine, but it cannot be overstated how nervous Republicans were about this race and internal polling. And it could have been the reason that they pulled Elise Stefanik from the UN, because they thought they could have lost it.
Yeah, it seems like that's certainly the case. Now, I wanted to take our attention. We're speaking to Ryan Girdusky. He's got It's a Numbers Game podcast, new episode out today. So go subscribe to the Clay and Buck Network. You see it right there. And go please check it out and listen. What is going on over in France with Marine Le Pen and the whole situation of their elections? Because people are seeing this, they're going, oh, so we're not the only ones where the establishment uses the law to knock people out of the game.
Buck, I'm so glad you asked. This is the third NATO nation this month to knock a leading presidential contender off of the ballot. Marine Le Pen is the head of the National Rally. They call it the far right. It is the Patriot Party of France. She was the leading contender in the 2027 election. The accusation is of embezzlement. What that really means is that she was a member of the European Parliament. They gave her funds to hire a staff. Her staff was working for her as a member of the European Parliament, and also working for her as the leader of a party at the same time. Even though there's no evidence that she was taking funds, personally enriching herself, none of that. A lot of people do this. It was a complete political hit job. They had been trying to get her arrested and keep her out of running for office for years. Like, she has been target number one for the longest time. And they basically said she has 2 years of prison term. This is a woman who has never had a infracture ever. And by the way, the number was $5 million over 14 years. So it wasn't like she was spending, blowing billions of EU money. It was $5 million over 14 years to paid secretaries and aides to do work for both her national campaign and her European one. But what it means ultimately is that either she will have to go to the Paris Court of Appeals to get an appeal so she can run in 2027, where she is the leading candidate by double-digit margin, or her likely successor, her niece's boyfriend, Jordan Bardella, who's 29 years old, will be running at her place. And he's also, by the way, has a lot of support if he does run. If he does run, he will be a Frenchman with Italian ancestry who's in his late 20s. It will be the only time since Napoleon that's been the case in France. But it's really triggering, and this is what Vice President Vance has been talking about. This is what President Trump's been talking about Europe. Europe has a lot of populist and nationalist parties rising. The center right will not work with them. The judges are trying to make sure they cannot hold elected office. It is so anti-democratic from people who scream about democracy all the time, 24 hours. And why it matters to America is when Trump is doing the Ukraine ceasefire, when he's talking about tariffs, people like Giorgia Meloni are very pro-Trump. They're very pro-Western. She is the prime minister of Italy. Marine Le Pen is more like Giorgia Meloni than she is like Macron, who wants to send troops over to fight in Ukraine, who wants the war to continue to go on, who wants retaliatory tariffs against the United States. Marine Le Pen, Giorgia Meloni, these kinds of Western nationalist populist leaders see the West as an allied brotherhood, and that we can sit there and work together to become, more beneficial. The current status quo, the neoliberals in charge right now, Keir Starmer, Macron, all the rest of them, they are in opposition of a lot of President Trump's agenda. So we want allies and people in allied countries to have nationalist leaders like this in charge.
Are for these countries where there have been opposition leaders banned, by the way, the list that I have in front of me here, Ryan, Romania, right? Opposition leader banned. Brazil, France, we just talked about. There's no elections in Ukraine because it's a state of emergency, so no elections going on there.
Turkey.
Moldova. Has Germany tried to ban the AfD party, right?
Multiple times, yes.
Yeah,
Multiple
so Germany's
times.
Trying to do this. Who am I missing? Am I missing anyone?
Turkey just banned their leader against Aragon from running. That happened on March, I think, 13th. So Turkey did it. And when they don't outright ban them, what happens in Austria, for example, the Nationalist Party came in first place. They wanted a nationalist and a center right coalition of the people, and instead the center right said to the center left and to the Green Party, which is far left, I'll work with you guys and I'll isolate a third of the electorate so that their voices are not heard. That's what happens on the alternative side more times than not. But But what you're talking about as far as banning people, yeah, Germany, Moldova, Romania, Ukraine doesn't have elections, Turkey, France, Brazil. It's happening everywhere where they're using judiciary as an arm, a political arm, which gets back to like America and Wisconsin. This is why it's so important for conservatives to win these judicial elections. It really means a lot. Mitch McConnell was not wrong in the 2016, 2017 when he said we need to remake the judiciary. It is essential.
And just to this point about the parties that are being banned, because again, bringing this home, so for people who are listening, wherever they are across the country, I don't follow the European parties as closely as you do, Ryan, but it seems pretty clear to me when talking about places like France, for example, and Germany, that the quote far right are people who are overwhelmingly going to say, hey, we have to stop importing the third world into this country at a rate that is not assimilable and is overrunning the cultural and political fabric of this country with the new arrivals. Is that the biggest single issue for these guys?
Yeah, yes, but there's a couple things. There's Green New Deal energy policies, which they're totally against, which the EU is for. Mass immigration, having terrorist countries, and also there is something in Europe that there's a European compact that was signed right after World War II, which doesn't allow for deportations of illegal aliens if they come from nations where they could be mistreated. So the reason that England and France, the ECHR is what it's called, England and France and Germany keep having these terrorists year in and year out and they can never deport them is because the ECHR and any independent nation that wants to sit there and reform it, they're being stopped by these mainstream, quote unquote, mainstream parties from holding office so they can sit there and do these reforms. They can't even deport the foreign terrorists in many of these cases because of these quote unquote center right and center left parties. So yeah, those things, reforming the building blocks of the European Union, green new energy, and most important, immigration. They are pedal to the metal, import the third world for Europe, and it's a disaster.
Ryan Girdusky, everybody go check out It's a Numbers Game up on the Clay and Buck Podcast Network, and you can subscribe on Substack to his national populist newsletter. I recommend you do the same. Ryan, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Rapid Radio's walkie-talkies are helping more people every day when they find themselves in a tough situation caused by weather or worse. As much as we like to speak of these modern-day walkie-talkies keeping us connected with family and friends in the best of times because they are so easy to use, really, sometimes their real impact comes when adversity hits. My wife's family in North Carolina was cut off from communication for days when the hurricane hit, and rapid radios were our best way to communicate with them as they were recovering and just to check up on them. And most recently, Jeremy in Omaha sent us a talk back about how rapid radios helped his family when that late winter blizzard came through Nebraska.
Hey, Clay and Buck. I want to thank you guys for recommending rapid radios. We had a big old blizzard here in Nebraska about a week and a half ago or so. Power lines are down, cell phone service is out. That's the only way I was able to communicate with my family. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So glad, Mike. Thank you so much for telling us about this one. Really, really important. Jeremy in Omaha, rather. Jeremy, thank you so much. That's why we want rapid radios in your home and in your family's home. It's as clear as that. There are no monthly fees, no contracts to sign, just a rather small annual fee that keeps your device current once you buy them. Go online to rapidradios.com. You'll get up to 60% off, free UPS shipping from Michigan, plus a free protection bag. Add code radio and get an extra 5% off.